For the left, it's all about health care and abortion. For me, it's about freedom and certainly the Second Amendment as well, and keeping government intrusion to a minimum. Observers may call all this scare tactics. When it comes to my predictions, though, that the left would try to legislate the Second Amendment out of existence and take away religious freedom at the same time, to me, that's simply the truth. Here to help break down fact from fiction is Vice President for the Institute of Constitutional Government and former DOJ official, John Malcolm. John, welcome to the program.
Good to be with you.
John, it's interesting. What I want from a judge is simply to follow the law, read the Constitution as it's written. How has that become so partisan today?
Because there are some people who are living constitutionalists who would rather not have the Constitution read as it was originally intended or understood, at least at the time that these provisions were ratified. They would rather have their modern-day values, and specifically their values, indoctrinated or enshrined into the Constitution through activist rulings that really stretch the Constitution beyond anything that the framers would have ever imagined.
Well, I think these activist judges on the liberal side, which are far and wide throughout this country, have really overloaded the Supreme Court. It's one of the reasons why the court is so busy taking up these activist rulings that have to go all the way to the Supreme Court, which makes this pick so important. Now, Amy Coney Barrett and Lagoa seem to be the two front runners in all of this. Do you have a pick of one of the two that you would like to see? And all of this has election implications as well.
Well, Amy Coney Barrett is the better known of the two. She was a distinguished academic for a number of years. She clerked on the Supreme Court for Antonin Scalia. She's written in major leading law reviews on a whole host of issues that I care a lot about, things like originalism, textualism, when judges should adhere to or depart from precedent. She's been on the Seventh Circuit since 2017 and has written or joined several very significant opinions that touch on some of the areas that you mentioned, including the Second Amendment. Judge Lagoa, I'm sure, would be quite excellent as well. She's Cuban-American. She was in private practice for a number of years, was a federal prosecutor. She's actually been a judge for 14 years and issued hundreds of opinions, but most of that time she was on an intermediate appellate court in Florida and dealing largely with state law issues, not federal issues.
Do you think Lagoa is more dangerous as far as we're not sure what her rulings would be from a constitutional conservative like myself that wants a strict framer's perspective? Is there more unknown with Lagoa?
Yes, I suppose so, because she hasn't ruled in those sorts of cases. However, she has given speeches and made statements during her confirmation hearing that she considers herself very much an originalist and a textualist. Many of her state court opinions interpreting the Florida state constitution adhere to an originalist perspective. She certainly has been a textualist when it comes to interpreting Florida statutes. So I have no reason to believe that she's not an originalist or textualist. But in terms of dealing with the federal constitution and federal issues, she has a somewhat thinner record.
Well, look, as far as I don't ever like playing identity politics, but this election is so important as well. You could say that by putting her up as your nominee as a Hispanic would really solidify Florida and other states, maybe Arizona, to move some votes over to President Trump. It would be very important. As we play all the politics for this, I want to play one clip for you, John. This was President Trump and the First Lady coming out, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg casket is there as well. And I want you to hear the reaction from the crowd and then get your response to this before we end this interview. Roll it. So to me, John, they are absolutely booing the president. This is not a time for booing the president in partisan politics, but I play it only to show you what we get from the left and what we would continue to get if Joe Biden were elected, John.
Yeah, well, look, he is the president of the United States, and he's our president, whether you voted for him or not. I certainly never booed Barack Obama, even though, frankly, I didn't vote for him. He was still our president. But these are very contentious times. All you need to do in order to prove that is just post something political on Facebook or Twitter and watch the responses you get from your friends on the right and from the left and from complete strangers you've never heard of, but who reach out just to blast you.
Oh, John, I don't know anything about that. I get everybody agrees with me out there on social media. Forget the death threats and everything else. Hey, buddy, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for your service to this country as well. It's fascinating having you on the program.
Thank you. Good to be with you.